Okay, hi everybody. It's Marie and Janet.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you again.
Yes, this is our Friday talk about it. And so today we're going to talk about the new book that's come out. I can't know which shoulder am I over.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. There's that book. Yeah.
Survival isn't mandatory.
Yeah. And it's launching on March 9th. So, you know, we and I are going through the same launch routine that we did with Our Silent Voice. And I think what's even more exciting, Maria, which I just love the idea that you came up with. How about if we do Our Silent Voice about different kinds of subjects, like substance abuse, for instance, that we get submissions.
Different kinds of trauma.
Yeah, different kinds of trauma. More, but yeah, so I think that harassment at work could hold a chapter. It might hold a whole book. So we don't know yet, but we're pretty excited about how we can position our future books. Right now, we're accepting submissions for Fierce, Brave, and Loud, and we've got some pretty exciting stuff in that.
There are so many great voices out there, and the submissions are just phenomenal.
Oh my God. It's almost like the second generation submission is even better than the first. I mean, it's hard to say that the first isn't, but I mean, it's like from A+ to A++. Wow, how does that happen? There's some really good writers out there, and we love
some very good writers, and there are some stories really, really need to be heard.
Exactly. And it's not easy. Our blog this month is about how we wrote our story, and it's
very personal blog. So
very personal blog.
Yeah.
And I think it's I'm just dazzled by the idea that it's a subversive act, that you subvert the voice inside of you that says you're not worth it, it's not okay, you're not okay, you're silly for doing this, it's not important that you do this, in fact, it's probably not even good writing that you do this. All of those conversations we have, it subverts those conversations, and it's an act of bravery. Yeah.
Oh, and I love the feeling of being a disruptor.
Ooh,
and doing what you're told and rebelling against that little voice in your head that says, oh, it really wasn't that bad. Oh, I really shouldn't talk about it. Or, nobody really wants to hear my stuff,
Exactly.
It's not true. We need to hear it.
We do. It needs to be written about and said, but at any rate.
So Janet, tell us a little bit about Survival Isn't Mandatory, which is your memoir, correct?
Yes, it is.
Of stories. What made you want to write this book?
Well, I first started after I decided that for my grandchildren, I wanted to write a family history. So they knew some of the really cool stories of our ancestors that I found on ancestry.com, like the great uncle who was from a church that didn't believe in carrying a weapon, decided to take his musical talent and play the piccolo in the War of 1812. I mean, that's a cool story, right? So there were stories like that, right? Like the moral stand that someone took, or the uncles and grandfathers that went across the country teaching the Bible as they saw it. And the documentation from that is just fascinating. So I decided to write a family history, but I knew that I couldn't write out of a paper bag. If I had to write a story, it would just be awful because I was a terrible writer. And I enrolled in a class at Glasscock School of Continuing Studies at Rice University, and I paid for the class, and it was a memoir class. And I did the homework, but as I was doing the homework, I said, no, I'm not going to write about that. No, I'm not going to write about that. Nah, I can't write about that. And I'm certainly not going to write about that. But I shared that out loud. And there were two people in the class who said, that's BS. Write about it, shut up, and read it next time, right? And so I did. And that first story, called The Husband, they clapped. And I thought, gosh, maybe I can do this. So I started taking writing classes. And I used my life as a template to learn how to write. Kind of like you only made cookies before, but you're going to take a cake class. So you just make the same cake over and over and over and over and over again until you really get it right and you feel comfortable with it. That's kind of how I took my life. By the time I was done writing about my life, someone said this should be in a book. So I took it seriously, and I put it together in a book, and then hired Cindy Childress to be my developmental editor to show me how to do what I wanted to do. And she was brilliant. And that's how this book came about. And it took me 3.5 years. It took me probably a year and a half to figure it out. But that's
I
how
love
this
the intersection that you kind of have an intersection there between survival isn't mandatory and our silent voice. There is definitely something topics that touch on each other, which I find very interesting, along with the ancestral information, the historical information, and the research that you did. There's some great stories in there.
You know, I think in survival, I got close to the girl that I was, that I never really thought about. And when I started writing about her, I kind of fell in love with her. She was a brave chick, and she tried hard. And I mean, you know, when you write a memoir, there's a part of it that you have to dramatize and fictionalize a little bit to put some color around it. But every single chapter is about something that I remember or was retold to me by my parents or my family. And, you know, learning that we are not the Indian we thought we were, that finding out, that's one of my favorite chapters, called Who's the Indian? When my daughter called me and said, Mom, I had my DNA done, and we're not only not Indian, we're not even close, right? So all of a sudden this family lie comes out. I love that story. Yeah. But there's some things that happened to me as a girl that could have crushed me and didn't. And so that is why I think on the back, it says, this shaky girl wanted more than anything to be brave. Her life was about exploring boundaries and exploding truth. And I think if anything at all about this book that I'm proud of, it's that, exploding some truths that were there.
I love that line. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good line.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know when it was going to end or how it was going to end. In fact, you asked me the other day how I finally ended it. And how I finally ended it was, hold on just 1 second. Let me find it. How boring is this? So,
The story isn't really over yet. So
I know it's not totally over, but here's how I ended it. I didn't see how things had to be his way or else. The narcotic charm seduced me into doing what I might never do. The wedding acted as a trigger. It was not what he wanted or how he wanted it. And the baby problem would have been eliminated if I just listened to him. I didn't see it, blinded by the right choice I made and the life of my child. I didn't know then I was marrying the wrong man. And that's how I ended the first book. Kind of leads me into the next book.
So when will it be available on Amazon? March 9th?
March 9th is the launch date. And that launch date is going to start at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and end much later in the day, where everyone can go onto Amazon, purchase the Kindle version. And it doesn't even matter if you have a Kindle or you don't have a Kindle, that you purchase it can help get the book into the bestseller status.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I think we should kind of wrap it up now, but right before we go, I just want to say to everyone that people are still on Amazon buying Our Silent Voice, and we thank you for that, and for putting reviews, our book on Amazon. It's so wonderful to read the reviews and to know the feedbacks and to know your thoughts about the book. So keep doing that for Our Silent Voice. And do it on March 9th for Survival.
Absolutely. We'll see you later. Thanks, Marie.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.